I'm really curious. Are Meta's new policies on hateful conduct more productive or are they more hurtful? This past Tuesday, Mark Zuckerberg released a video on Instagram where he said that he's updating his hateful conduct policy and he is removing all fact checkers and he's going to go ahead and replace them with community notes, kind of like what X is doing. And he also said that he's moving his operation from California to Texas, and what he says is an area with less bias people, I guess, less biased teams of people.
So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
Also in his video, Mark Zuckerberg says that topics such as gender and immigration will be more talked about on the platform to align with the current, what he says, political discourse.
We're going to simplify our content policies and get rid of a bunch of restrictions on topics like immigration and gender that are just out of touch with mainstream discourse.
And then he actually kind of trails off at the end about how Europe is crippling the right to free speech, and him and the United States government will do everything they can to push for free speech across the entire world. So we'll see how that plays out.
Europe has an ever-increasing number of laws institutionalizing censorship and making it difficult to build anything innovative there.
A lot has been said about this since Tuesday, and I just want to give my opinion and go over what I've read and if I think whether or not these new updates to their hateful conduct policy are productive for society or if they're more harmful. Spoiler alert, I believe that they're more harmful, but I'm going to go ahead and explain why. First off, let's see what Meta's doing to combat this whole suppression of free speech, as Mark Zuckerberg so kindly put it in his video. Okay, so on their new hateful conduct page, which I'm on right now, we have our current version. We have our current version today. So essentially, their policy rationale, I'll just read it real quick. We believe that people use their voice and connect more freely when they don't feel attacked on the basis of who they are. True. That is why we don't allow hateful conduct on Facebook, Instagram, or Threads. Let me tell you why that's bullshit. Let me just read out that they have protected characteristics, which are your race, ethnicity, national origin, disability, religious affiliation, caste, sexual orientation, sex, gender identity, and serious disease. Additionally, we consider age a protected characteristic when referenced along with another protected characteristic, all right? I do want to focus though right here at the bottom where it talks about people using sex or gender exclusive languages. All the way towards the end here, it says, other times they call for exclusion or use insulting language in the context of discussing political or religious topics, such as when discussing transgender rights, immigration, or homosexuality. Finally, sometimes people curse at a gender in the context of a romantic breakup. Our policies are designed to allow room for these types of speech. Okay, so they have two tiers. Tier 1, do not post, all the stuff, dehumanizing speech, targeting a person or a group of people, all that good stuff. Although, I'm going to be honest, they removed a lot of stuff here. If you take a look, like if you go up here and you take a look at their previous policies, I won't show them, but there's a lot of stuff that they removed. So I suggest that you take a look after watching this video. Tier 2 doesn't allow content targeting a person or group of people on the basis of their protected characteristics in written or visual form with the following. We have general exclusion, right? Political exclusion, economic exclusion. By the way, economic exclusion, which means denying access to economic entitlements and limiting participation in the labor market, right? But we do allow content arguing for gender-based limitations of military, law enforcement, and teaching jobs. We also allow the same content based on sexual orientation, when the content is based on religious beliefs. Here's another part that I do not understand. When it talks about insults, including those about, second bullet point, mental characteristics, including but not limited to allegations of stupidity, intellectual property, and mental illness, and unsupported comparisons between PC groups on the basis of inherent intellectual capacity. We do allow allegations of mental illness or abnormality when based on gender or sexual orientation. given political and religious discourse about transgenderism and homosexuality, and common non-serious usages of words like weird. This is part of why I'm kind of questioning this updated policy on if it's supposed to be good or not. This is the third time that Meta has carved out in their policy these sort of exclusions for gay people and also transgender people as well. It's interesting why they put that in their policy specifically. I want to look at the last part, which is really funny, which basically says, Meta looks at a range of signs to determine whether there is a threat of harm in the content. These include, but are not limited to, content that could incite imminent violence or intimidation, whether there is a period of heightened tension, such as an election or ongoing conflict, and whether there is a recent history of violence against a targeted protected group. So, I guess we'll see what happens when Pride Month comes around. Like I said, it's interesting that they put so much information excluding gay and transgender people from any type of discrimination, but at the same time they're kind of saying that it's not allowed to discriminate, like everything's kind of vague. In particular though, the basis off of religion is really important to me, because where does it say that we have an exclusion to target religious people? Like the same thing, if we don't believe in a particular religion, there's nothing in here that says that there's an exclusion for targeting someone based on religious beliefs. By the way, before I continue, what are other people saying about this, right? I recently downloaded Threads. I absolutely hate Facebook, but I want to do my research. So I downloaded Threads and I checked under Mark Zuckerberg's post basically stating all these new policies that they're doing. And I screen recorded right here what some people are saying. Now, obviously, the consensus, it doesn't look that great, right? At least with what I see, but obviously everything on Facebook is curated, and so you may see something completely different, but that's what I see so far. I don't understand hating a group just because you want to hate it. Like, whoever they are, just worry about yourself. One of the biggest examples of this is all the way back in 2017 with the country of Myanmar, located in Asia, and the Myanmar's army's declaration of ethnic cleansing against one of their ethnic groups, the Rohingyas. Over 30,000 Rohingyas were either or killed, and some of them were children. And there was a mass exodus of a little over 740,000 Rohingyas migrating to countries like Malaysia, Thailand, and Bangladesh. And one of the reasons that this particular event was so terrible was because of years of targeted attacks towards these people on Facebook. Facebook's algorithm absolutely targeted these people by pushing any type of hate or violence toward them, any post by any user, as much as they could, and inevitably led to these terrible attacks. In one particular example, there's a post shared more than 1,000 times. A Muslim human rights defender was pictured and described as a national traitor. The comments left on the post included threatening and racist messages, including, "He is a Muslim, Muslims are dogs, and need to be shot." Facebook definitely facilitated these attacks by spreading this language across its user base, and because of that, we've seen one of the biggest genocides in recent history. Calls for violence, calls for self-inflicted violence as well. That sucks. That really sucks. I just want to say this. What if you end up becoming a class of people that were subject to more hate and violence online over time? Would you be okay with that? What would you do? Would you lay down and accept it, citing how Meta shouldn't be responsible for how it's affecting people's opinions? Remember, by the way, social media companies like that can truly go in any direction whenever they want, even if they're promising something on the outside. Things behind the scenes could be much different. With that being said, I'm more than certain you would do everything you could to push back and protect yourself. Obviously, something I always tell myself is just because you're not a targeted group now doesn't mean you won't be one in the future. That's really important to pay attention to.